I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's definitely aliens. No doubt about that. Guys, welcome to the channel Tomorrow Survivalist. We try to be objective about all things preparedness and survival, including stuff like this. It's not as easy. There's a lot of, wild speculations. This is maybe one of the best takes I've seen so far. It could be aliens, sure, but it also could be natural occurrences. Let's check this out.
And finally tonight in the future of everything, I don't know about you, but I spent the weekend refreshing for updates on our favorite interstellar visitor, that comet or question mark 3I Atlas. It is up to a little bit more strangeness. Now, last week we told you that 3I Atlas was getting way brighter, way bluer as it got close.
Way brighter and way bluer than expected. Still well within the natural occurrence, especially given how close it is to the sun and, the unusual composition. So, yeah, could be aliens, I guess, but it also could be just a big old rock floating in space.
To the sun. Well, now there is a new report from NASA that shows that 3I Atlas might be picking up a little speed in, quote, non-gravitational acceleration. But what does that mean?
So, of course, non-gravitational acceleration is, of course, an engine, and this is a spaceship. Well, I mean, it could be, but also, again, keep in mind, the sun, keep in mind as it goes away from the sun, where is it that the sun's going to reflect? Where is it that a lot of mass may be transforming instantly into gas and producing like a jet effect? Basically like a firecracker, it's turning into gas on the back where the sun is reflecting, and that is accelerating the object beyond its gravitational force.
Well, basically, it means it's being propelled by some other force besides gravity. Maybe it's thrust from burning off of chemical compounds as it got near the sun, which happens occasionally. It would be natural for comets. They usually burn off some of those chemicals, and that's what you see in that big cloud afterwards. And we would see a very big cloud around it once we get a very good visual soon, but we haven't yet.
I want to check this out. These are the daily alien ship. It's the Daily Star, Newsweek, 3I Atlas Live. So you see here how the different narratives from the different media outlets, some of them are, yellow page kind of media. Atlas is an engine to accelerate the economic times, a little bit more objective. Shows sign of alien engine and non-gravitational. Harvard scientist explains. Okay, so he's Avi Loeb's Harvard scientist. He's the one that is all about alien stuff, Possible alien, New York Post, Newsweek, 3I Atlas Live, comet's location. All right.
In the meantime, the hype is in overdrive with headlines jumping straight to conclusions. Alien ship uses engine.
Definitely aliens.
We're not there yet. But before we jump to any of those conclusions, let's go straight to the source on everything interstellar travel. That is Harvard's professor, Avi Loeb, back again to help us break some of this down. Professor, always great to see you. So you were hinting at a little bit of this the last time we talked. Now, non-gravitational acceleration, like how much acceleration are we talking here?
Well, thanks for having me. It was data from the ALMA observatory, which is a millimeter wave set of sensors that presumably detected the 3I Atlas as it approached perihelion, closest approach to the sun. And what it discovered is a deviation by 4 arc seconds in right ascension from the expected path. And that's very significant, statistically significant. I calculated, given the level of acceleration that they inferred that was reported on the Jet Propulsion Lab website for 3I Atlas, that corresponds to evaporation of about a sixth of the mass of the object to give it that kind of a boost as a result of recoil. It's a very significant fraction of the mass of the object, and I calculated it based on momentum conservation. The material flowing away from the object in one direction gives it a kick in the opposite direction. There is no way out of that, and under relatively conservative assumptions about the escape speed of the molecules or dust particles from the object, one gets that a substantial fraction of the mass of the object had to be evaporated. So that means that if it's a comet, a natural comet, it should be surrounded by a cloud of gas that carries 5 billion tons or more. And the object itself was losing a significant fraction of its mass. So that means when we look at the 3A Atlas after it goes out of hiding behind the sun, and that should happen within a week or two. If it's a natural comet, we should really see a very bright, massive cloud of gas, and perhaps even a cometary tail that is extremely bright around it. If we don't see that, the question is what propelled it? And there is no way out. One way or another, we should figure out the nature of the object. If it evaporated, if 20% or so of the mass of the object got evaporated by sunlight, then we will know its nature, because that's a substantial...
Okay, so that's a fair take, I guess. You know, he's expecting to see a lot of mass loss, a lot of bright, a big old tail there. 20%, that's a lot of the mass being lost. So yeah, I guess that's fair. You know, I get it that the guy is very, you know, it's always aliens, but this is a pretty fair take, I think.
Portion of the mass that the object was made of to start with, and we can figure out what composition that material has.
It's 20% is such a large number, and yet, you know, it makes me think of the last time we saw something like this, Oumuamua, which you studied so closely. We didn't see that type of cloud around it. That was another interstellar visitor. What else could be going on here?
Say it. Say it.
So in the case of Oumuamua, it occurred to me that it could be the sunlight reflecting, bouncing off its surface that could push it. And in fact, 3 years later, there was actually another object discovered by the same telescope in Hawaii. It was given the name 2020 SO, discovered in September 2020. And that one ended up being recognized as a rocket booster from a launch in 1966 by NASA, because we were able to infer the composition of the surface of this object, which was stainless steel, using an infrared spectrograph. So it was clear that one was artificial. It was pushed by reflecting sunlight because it was hollow. And so that led me to suggest that maybe Oumuamua was also artificial. In this case, we do detect gas around it, even when we found it, even when it was far from the sun. The question is there much more gas now? And it's possible because it got brighter. If we don't see that very massive amount of mass of gas around it, then you know, there might be something else propelling it. You know, a spacecraft obviously can, in principle, have an engine that will not produce such a massive cloud of...
Okay, so basically that's what it comes down to. I guess we'll stay, you know, on top of the news and see what we learn in a couple more weeks. But anyway, interesting stuff. You know, extremely far-fetched to just, oh, it's always aliens. But hey, one day we may end up finding ourselves with little green men just... dropping from the sky and having interesting discussions with us. Guys, as always, if you want to learn about preparedness and survival, objectively, without fear, paranoia, any of that stuff, survival skills, as well as surviving the economic collapse, those are my books available in the links there below in Amazon. Have a great day. Take care.